Basshead family, what is going on? In today's video, I'm going to be showing y'all how to hook up a car audio sub and amp along with your car audio stereo in your house or garage. So this will be a full how-to step-by-step. Let's get to it. Guys, so in the last video, if you did not see it, I showed y'all how to hook up just a car stereo 12-volt radio by using an AC to DC converter and a battery. We even got a little switch over here so we can power the radio and all that on. And then I also wired up these speakers and super tweeters up here. Now, I don't think I had them mounted up here in the last video, but I found these old hangers and I just stuck it up there. It actually sounds pretty good and gets it up and out of the way. Now, I went with running a car audio battery and a little bit smaller power supply. Now, this guy is great. I do a lot of stuff with lithium car audio batteries, and this allows me to adjust my voltage and amperage and all that stuff. That being said, I think it's only like a 10 amp power supply, so if you have a really big system, you'll probably want to have a bigger power supply, especially if you're not running a battery. Now, this battery gives me plenty of reserve, so for what I do, I don't really need that big of a power supply. Now, we are using this CT Sounds AT1401D. This is actually a pretty big amp for this sort of setup that we're going to be doing. Don't really need to run an amp this big, and if I did run this at its full potential, it would drain through the battery really, really quickly. So again, if I really want to turn this up, I will need to get a bigger power supply or upgrade my battery somehow, but we're not going to be pushing this to the max whatsoever. Just using this to add a little extra bump to my sound system in this workshop, and this happened to be the amp that I had for the job. Now, this is your just standard car audio amp. So of course we have a battery plus a ground. We have a remote turn on wire. Then on this side we have all of our adjustments, and this does have really, really nice Tiffany style connectors for the RCAs. Guys, if you want this amp or anything from CD Sounds, there will be a link in the description to their website. But anyway, we're going to mount this guy up here, and then I'll show you how to run all the wire. Now, this amp comes with a really cool bass knob. This thing will tell me my voltage going to the amp, and it'll tell me if the amp is clipping and all that. So I think that's really, really neat. And I think I'm going to be able to mount that guy right there. Now, another thing I did since the last video, I added these sky-high battery terminals. These things just allow me to screw in a bunch of stuff and not have everything on a little teeny block. Again, you don't necessarily need this, but they are super duper handy. And over here, I've got some zero gauge wire that we're gonna run from this battery to this amp. Now again, running off this small of a system, you probably won't need zero gauge wire, but it's just what I happen to have around. I'd get whatever wire and fuse setup is recommended for the amp that you decide to run. To hook this up, all we're gonna do, we're gonna hook up our negative battery to the ground on the amp, and then of course the positive on our battery to the power on the amp. Now, these are just little half-inch hangers that is meant for this conduit for regular wire, but it'll work for holding up my zero gauge wire up against the wall. Not exactly what this is intended for, but it'll get the job done, and you can go grab these at Lowe's or wherever. Next up, guys, we have a fuse holder over here. We're just gonna mount this to the wall right here where it's easy to get to in case we gotta take out the fuse. Again, definitely make sure, guys, to run a fuse between your battery and your amp, even in a really safe indoor environment like this. The last thing you want, guys, is something to short and there to be a fire or something like that in your workshop. Next up, we're gonna hook up our ground and our positive wire to the negative and positive on the battery. Next up, we're gonna just put in the fuse. It'll probably make a little pop when I do that, but that is totally okay and normal. Next up, we're gonna run a remote power wire for the amp. So we're gonna come off this blue and white wire here on the head unit. It's always the blue and white wire on an aftermarket head unit. We're gonna run just a cable from there to the remote over here on the amp. To connect the wire over here, I just use these really cool little connectors. They have solder in the middle, heat shrink, and then they have these little waterproof little heat shrink thingies in there as well. They're really, really awesome. Guys, you just slide it over, twist the wires together, slide it up to where the heat shrink is over the bare wire. Then you heat it up with a heat gun, and it melts the solder and creates a really, really nice connection. So now everything should be hooked up, should be able to just turn the head unit on, and the amp should power up. There it goes. And then we can press this over here. And this guy comes on. You can see it'll tell me the voltage. And it's got a little adjuster right there. So you can make sure that, you know, what this reads is correct to what the battery shows. The other neat thing about this amp, you can set it that either the remote wire turns it on or that it only turns on when you turn on the bass knob. You always have to have your remote plier plugged in and the source onto it. But if we switch this over here like that, we then can come over here and we can turn the amp on and off with the bass knob. But what's neat about it, it'll still work just like normal. When you turn off the radio, the amp will turn off. But then when you turn back on the radio, it'll turn back on. Next up, we got to run some RCAs from the subwoofer output on the head unit to the amp. And these are just some real old RCAs I have lying around. I really would recommend getting some at least decent RCAs, guys. If you have a bad set of RCAs, you can get a bunch of just noise and static coming through your amp and sub. So again, I would recommend getting some nice ones, but these are what I got, so we're gonna use them for now. Got it hooked up here to the line inputs on the RCAs. Ran across and into the head unit, guys. Amp is now fully hooked up. All we gotta do is run some speaker wires from the amp to a sub. Decided to hook up these two CT Sound 8s that I got. Now, yes, they are in there upside down, but sounds the exact same, guys. Anyway, let's play something, see if it works. Well, I can't play too much or else I will get copyright striked on YouTube. But, guys, it sounds awesome. Having it set up the way I do, the power supply seems to be keeping up no problem. Haven't had any voltage dropping or anything. Again, I've got that amp tuned like super low. Nothing crazy here, guys. Not trying to rattle the shop too much, but it looks really clean and it sounds really, really great. Now, I just have those 2 8s in there temporarily. Probably will go to a better kind of home audio sub and box here at some point. Something tuned really low that just will sound really, really awesome for in here. This is definitely more designed for a car. It doesn't sound as optimal for a space like this. Anyway, guys, let me know what y'all think This has been awesome. I've been needing to do this for forever, and so excited to finally have it done. Guys, if you want to see more stuff, we could run another external amp for speakers. We could have speakers all around this thing. We could run speakers outside. Literally could do whatever we want with this system. What's really great about doing a car audio system in your shop is there is absolutely no limits whatsoever, guys. As long as you got a head unit, you can run so many amps, batteries, power supplies, sub speakers as you wanted. Well, y'all, that's gonna do it for today. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll get back to the build on Project Sequoia here probably in the next video, so stay tuned for that. Guys, y'all have a wonderful rest of your day. Keep basing on.